Hello, good afternoon. My name is Alex, and I am part of Group Titan in our Computer 471 Data Communications class at California State University, Fullerton. And this is a first of 5-part video, and what we are talking about is web proxies. So we have 5 assignments in our class. This is the first. So my group here is myself, Sarthak, Lika, Michelle, and Yuri. And we wrote a program for our first assignment. We are assigned to create a web proxy. Now, it does work. However, there are a couple issues with it. It doesn't work perfectly as we would like, but it does demonstrate how a web proxy works. So what is a web proxy? A web proxy is a way for somebody who is online to access a website, but the website would have something called a web proxy to delegate connections and to facilitate what is a valid connection. It will route the connection accordingly. So, for example, if one website has servers all over the world, perhaps the web proxy will detect the location of the request from the internet, see that it's from, I don't know, New Zealand, and will route the connection to a web server that can provide faster service, maybe somewhere in Australia or Japan or something like that. In our example, though, for our program, we didn't actually purchase a web server, so what we ended up doing was creating our web proxy on our actual machine that we use to access. So instead of using a domain name, we're actually using localhost, since that is, yeah, so our web proxy and web server are actually the same unit, the same machine. Okay, so let's take the proxy for a test run. As you can see, I brought up a different image here of what a web proxy is. I think it better illustrates what we're trying to do here. So us, the user, is trying to access the internet, but we want to do so through an intermediary web server, which is our web proxy. And this is and as I have stated before, this internal network right here is actually our program is actually utilizing our user machine as the web proxy. So this is actually the same machine as I previously stated. And we're going to go ahead and just run our program. So it is we're just going to go ahead and go Python and then webproxy4.py with our IP address as the argument. And it's probably additional functionality that we could have added to have it automatically detect the IP address of the user and use that as the argument. But for now, we're just go ahead and using good old Google. So let's go ahead and run that and see what happens. Oops. Oh, I'm in the wrong directory here. So let me go ahead and let me go to my downloads where I downloaded it, and let's go ahead and run it. So as you can see, it is listening to port 8888, and it's ready to serve. So right now, we are the user. We are accessing the proxy over port 8888. So now we need to tell the web proxy to go out onto the internet and grab us some data. So let's go ahead and go localhost, and we're going to go over port 8888. And let's go to, and then slash, and let's go ahead and go to www. Oh, I don't know, let's go unix.com. So as you can see, well, the way we have it set up with our program is that it creates a cache of the file. So as you can see, since we have not visited this file yet, the file does not exist on our system, so it's false. And now it's created a new socket, a stream socket, on our proxy server. So creating a new socket. So right here, creating a new socket, and we are, from the proxy server to the internet. So right here, we are at unix.com, and we are connected to port 80 of the host. So from here to the proxy, we are actually over port 8888, and from the proxy to the internet, we are actually going over port 80, which is for normal web traffic. And the same is true coming back. So the internet returns the payload to the proxy over port 80, and then the proxy returns it to the user, us, over port 8888. And this IP address is actually the IP of our proxy. So with TCP/IP, we sent a request out to the proxy. It returned we sent a request to connect to the proxy over port 8888. It returns saying OK over this IP address here, and this is a size of data for our request in, I think, kilobytes, I want to say. And yeah, so actually what happened here is it went out to the internet. This is our proxy, but it returned the web page. Actually, this is actually the unix.com web page right here, 47334, and yeah, it should be in kilobytes, or maybe that's in 1024s of bytes. Actually, I think that's probably more correct. So I think this is actually might be even in bits. Yeah, and so that's how it works. Pretty straightforward. And so I don't know. Let's try another one. Let's go. Actually, let me just use that same page. Let's go localhost over port 8888, and we're gonna go ahead and go to I don't know. Let's go to fedora.com. And oh, I thought it would come up with like some Linux distro, but I guess not. And oh wow, that's interesting. So looks like it did not did not like that. Host name cannot be resolved, which is probably because it's not an actual website. It's for sale, so that's pretty interesting. Illegal request. So that's another piece of functionality that our proxy could have had, was for any illegal requests, it could have redirected to somewhere else before just spitting out some garbage and saying illegal request. It could have said, oh, server not found, or something like that on our terminal window, but then sending us to, I don't know, google.com or something like that. So let's try one more. That's interesting. Let's try one more. Let's go localhost over port 8888, and let's go to ibm.com. Oops, let me put the www. And as you can see, IBM has their own little API that actually looks like it prevents traffic over, or it prevents any connection from, I'm assuming it's a web proxy. I mean, I'm not entirely sure how it works, but I mean, I'm under the impression that we are, as a user, going over only to the proxy over port 8888, and then from here, from the proxy to the internet over port 80. So I'm a little confused as to why it would just pop up with 404. But yeah, but again, instead of having IBM's 404 error page, it would have been nice if we were able to get our program to redirect the invalid traffic to another website. So that was our project, and as you can see, there are numerous applications for web proxies. Just to kind of go over them again. So of course, it's the facilitating of traffic, ensuring that the fastest connections possible based on location. So again, if the user's somewhere else in the world, the proxy can direct them somewhere for faster service. It's also useful for security reasons. If there's any sort of connection flooding, the web proxy can detect it and can just dump all those connections onto another web page like Google or something like that. And yeah, and it also allows for anonymity. So if, let's say, you're trying to, I don't know, just trying to stay off the radar, or if you are, I don't know, some sort of like FBI agent or something, maybe you don't want people to see that you are observing their website, you can use a web proxy to obtain payloads without giving away your actual user IP address. So those are a couple applications. So yeah, very useful stuff. Thank you.